Dolly Curtis, and I'm at the McLaughlin Vineyards in Newtown. Sandy Hook, Newtown? We say Newtown or Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook.
And I've driven by here many times because I have a friend on this road, which is called, you're on Albert Hill Road though, right, Morgan?
Yes.
But my friend lives on Blackbridge, so I've often come by, and I thought on this beautiful fall day I'd come by and meet Morgan McLaughlin and find out and share with you, because this is a place you can all come and visit yourselves and taste the wine. I'm sure you do taste the wine here, right?
Yes, every day.
Every day? Well, that might be the better part of today. But anyhow, this is Morgan McLaughlin, and this is her family's vineyard, and she's going to tell me and you all about it and how this all happens, because this is a very big place that I'm standing in. I can imagine it takes a lot of foot power.
A lot of foot power, Dolly. It's a 160-acre farm that my grandparents bought back in 1943 when land was very cheap and the interstate system hadn't come about. And when they died in the 70s, to help pay for the upkeep of the property, the four siblings decided they needed to do a business. And so that's when they got into the wine business, started growing grapes and making the wine. And we've been going since 1979.
So in other words, before 1979, it was just a large acreage of farm for anything else?
At one time, it was apples and strawberries. That was the turn of the century. And there were several farm buildings where not landlords, but tenants lived, and they did their own farming just for themselves, but nothing commercial or large scale.
Also, it was sort of parts of it were leased out to other people,
right.
So the whole thing was a going thing to keep it going.
Right.
Because I know farmers are very practical, so they have to be financially practical.
Right, and there's old stone corrals around the property where they had kept pigs, and we see remnants of that today.
Now, so you were born in Sandy Hook?
I was born in Bridgeport because I guess they didn't have Danbury Hospital, or I was born, actually I think it was St. Mary's, but I'm not exactly sure.
You must have been born at St. Vincent's.
Maybe that's it.
In Bridgeport, okay, that's pretty interesting.
And then I grew up here as a child, and my family moved away for a while, but I've come back, and now I have my own family here.
I see you have two little ones. You have a little boy named Grayson?
Grayson is the 3-year-old, and Hayden is the 6-month-old.
So you have this whole thing going on at the same time. And now are you are you the head person here too?
We don't like to use job titles, but if you have to ask, it's general manager, also an owner, winemaker. I have a small staff that helps me get all the work done. I certainly can't do it by myself. But
you have a lot to do though still. So tell me about the seasons of the year, how this works. I mean, this is we're here in the fall.
The fall is the most active time here at the farm. It's grape harvest. And grape harvest is usually during the whole month of September, and you've chosen a nice day in September, so we are in the midst of harvest, though that we are not technically picking today. We picked last weekend, and we're going to be picking this upcoming weekend. We pick up to 20 tons a year. All of that gets processed into wine in the winery. So besides bringing in the fruit, we also have the production part of the winery.
Right, both parts. Because I know people in Bridgeport who are Italian descent.
Right.
They buy grapes and come in on a train.
Yep.
And that weekend around Columbus Day, they all go and pick up these grapes. They have red, and we did a television show, Victor Cromwell and I. It was very interesting, and they use the red for the color. I think the white, and they mix it. But I think the color was coming from. What type of grapes that do you grow here then? And what type of wine is it?
Well, what we have, then this is a variety that we've already picked, but this is a grape called Seyval Blanc. And Seyval, your viewers may not recognize it by name, but it is the most widely grown white grape in the eastern part of the United States. And it's a good wine for a variety of styles. There are some wines made from it that are sweet and some that are dry. It can be very similar in taste to Chardonnay, so that's why it's popular.
So how many types of grapes? I mean, in other words, it's good for you to have a variety, so you can have a variety of different kinds of wines that you...
Exactly. We grow 7 different kinds of grapes here, and we also buy some other grapes for some other farms. So our total different varietals are 10. So we can, obviously make up to 10 different wines a year.
I see.
Sometimes a little bit more if we get into blending.
I see, because I know from my little experience with it that you need different wines to blend out the color and the taste.
Right, and then it's also to hedge your bet with weather problems. So if you grew just one grape and it got wiped out because of rain,
so diversify it so that you're not on one thing.
Yeah.
So here's my question: is you went to school at some point after you left Newtown High School? And left here for a while?
Yeah,
and
went to college, studied English and education, thought I was going to be a teacher. I still am a teacher now in a little ways with the business, but didn't want to really be part of this growing up. Wanted to separate myself from the family and adventure out on my own. But then after college, I realized that I love New England, and there wasn't anyone else in the family that wanted or was
do this.
So it was an opportunity that just existed. So I jumped on it and spent a lot of time out at the University of California at Davis, which has one of the largest and most renowned enology or winemaking schools in the country.
How do you say that word?
Enology.
Enology.
And that's winemaking.
Wine. How do you spell it?
Oh.
You don't know? O?
E-O-E-N-O-L-O-G-Y, I think.
Okay, so at least we know how to start spelling it, so we can look it up. So, in other words, you really went quickly then to get yourself some training, because you must have got a lot on hands-on.
Yes, and then also we work with a wine consultant too from Long Island, and he helps us prepare for harvest and helps us with blending and deals with the technical side of the production.
Can you get any help from the Agricultural Experimental Station in Connecticut?
We do. Dr. Kiyomoto does a lot of grape growing experimentation, and we get quite a bit of research from him. Unfortunately, the Department of Agriculture itself does not have any funds to directly assist us, and the University of Connecticut, their agriculture budgets have been slashed. So unlike some other states like Cornell, in New York, Ohio University, obviously in Ohio, they actually have grape growing departments where there's research done specifically for that industry.
Right.
But in Connecticut, other than the experiment station, and then just each individual grower experimenting on his own, that's where the research is.
But we have a climate that works for this.
We do. There's 49 states in the United States that have wineries. The only state that does not is Alaska. So people are surprised when they think of grapes being grown in other places besides California. But Florida, Montana, the Dakotas.
Wow, there's a wide range in the temperatures it grows in.
And Connecticut is pretty good because we're Zone 6. So for people who know about backyard gardening, Zone 6 is a relatively mild, gives us a relatively mild season. So we always get a frost in May and we get a frost in October, but it's predictable. So that's a good, it's good then we know
what you have.
Right.
So what we have is for planting. Are these all they grow every year and they annually come up again, or do you have to
No, they're perennials. So they do come back every year. They go dormant in the winter after our first frost, which is usually around Columbus Day weekend. Then the season will pick up again, usually around Memorial Day weekend. So it's about a 3 to 4 month growing season, mostly during the summer.
It may be extended a little bit.
If you have a really nice Indian summer and your frost is delayed, but usually it falls pretty much between May and October.
And that's regardless of, then you have problems with variables like drought. This summer we didn't have much rain.
That's good for grapes. Usually if your garden is looking a little haggard and a little lifeless, chances are the vineyards are doing well. Grapes like a drier climate. We have problems with humidity in the summer. That's a big problem for us.
Fungus, mildew.
Mm-hmm. And then also deer and birds are a problem.
We certainly have deer. I saw all your black fencing that you can hardly see when you drive by it, but that's all for deer fencing.
Yeah, it's technically called bird netting.
Bird netting. Yeah, I've seen it in the bird banding people.
But it's probably 10% against birds and 90% deer, because the deer population, as everybody knows, is growing out of control.
Right.
And so the last few years we've lost up to 75% of our production. So this year we've had to net the entire vineyard.
So did it make time-wise, and you had the cost of the netting and the time put it up, can you tell yet whether it's going to have made a big difference?
Well, it made a big difference in that we were able to harvest fruit, and we'll probably have to pass the cost on to the consumer once the wine gets released. But we've been able to keep costs to a minimum. That's important, obviously, when you operate a farm, is managing overhead and operation expenses. But we've done a pretty good job.
I'm really impressed. I'm thinking about you as a young mother. I hear your little baby chirping in the background, that little one who doesn't even walk yet, luckily. And the houses and the beautiful wine tasting area and this gift shop. And I haven't visited the winery yet, but we will. And to get this all going, I mean, you must be feeling pretty strong physically and determined.
Yeah, it's not much opportunity to just sit around and do nothing. With the kids, they don't go to daycare, and I don't have a nanny. So when work needs to get done, they come with me, and my older one has learned to be a little more cooperative. Obviously, the 6-month-old hasn't learned.
The older one's only about 3.
Right, and he helps in the winery. He helps move hoses around and helps us bottle. Not literally, but moves bottles around for us.
So you're really working with the minimum amount of hands.
That's right.
To get the maximum. That sounds like our television show, Victor Cromwell and I would do. People ask us, we are the crew.
Yeah.
But somehow the labor of love comes through on all these things, and amazingly these
That's
miracles
right.
happen. So you went into this with this training and determination, and the rest of your relatives decided that you could do it if you wanted. That was going to be your...
Right. Well, the obvious downside to this business is the financial opportunity. I get to live here, I get to raise my children here, and I love my job. But I'm not going to become a millionaire by operating this business anytime soon. So there's a trade-off, and the rest of my family didn't grow up with it and didn't want to get into farming. It's a very hard business, and it's not a consistent business because you are so reliant on Mother Nature. But I'm lucky too. My husband is in the wine business, so we have a love for it together. And though he doesn't help operate the business, it's in our free time we like to go wine tasting and visit other wineries. So
there's quite a few wineries in Connecticut. I don't know if they're all the same size, but I know Hopkins Inn has a winery, and then there's one in Brookfield.
Yeah, there's 10 wineries in the state right now, and there's a few more that are coming into production in the next few years. As I said earlier, with the majority of the states in the United States having farm wineries, it's a way of keeping big farms in operation,
right, and keep development down, and then we have less tax. It makes better for the whole infrastructure of these towns. I think it's just a blessing that you have all these acres under growth here.
It's nice because it's obviously an attraction to people who live outside the town, and it's also an attraction for people who live in town. But you bring people in, they spend money. They spend money at the gas stations, at the grocery stores,
right,
and
it's all good.
Yeah, so
not hard for you though. So tell me about these wines now. Well, here we are. So wintertime. So you must have a good holiday season time but the wines are going to get all macerated. The grapes are going to get...
Yeah, we crush everything in the winery right after we pick. Then things ferment, and then we do some filtrations and we do some blending. And then about a year after we pick the grape, the wine will go into the bottle.
You do that here too, the
bottling?
Yeah,
we do all of our bottling and corking here. And then it's usually about a year and a half after the grape was picked, then it'll be available to the consumer.
So then you have to have deliveries made where people come and pick it up. And these roads here are just, they look like they can handle trucks coming in and out, but it's also so serene here.
Yeah.
Is no problem, and because you're so far back and...
Yeah, it's it's a windy, narrow road, but that technically was a highway that went to Hartford at the turn of the century. So it's nice to see that some of the roads used for commerce are still used for commerce now. We sell to about 100 stores throughout the state of Connecticut, and I actually have...
I want to see the label. I can't wait to see it.
I actually have a salesman who does a lot of deliveries, so we do direct deliveries directly to the store. So most of our product is going out through our own vehicles versus vehicles coming in.
I see. So when your children go to school, which will be believe me, it happens very quickly.
Hopefully.
Morgan, it will happen quickly. Then the school groups are going to want to come to visit, and the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and I imagine you can just do so much, but you probably like to educate. Like you said, you started as an educator. And
actually, something that we do in the winter that's a little bit different than the grape growing is we make maple syrup.
I saw that. You make maple syrup, so you tap the trees?
We tap trees, and we have a sugar house, and we actually do a lot of educational group tours during February and March for the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts, and they kind of come here as an outdoor science room. and they learn about percentages and sugar and boiling and evaporation.
So all that steam that comes out, because we have a sugar house in Easton,
Maple Hill or Maple Row.
And Victor and I visited them, and it's just a beautiful thing in that time of year in the winter where everything's white on the ground, blue on the sky, the contrast, and then the steam coming up from in the sugar house. So you have your maple trees, but I don't see them because basically I've been concentrating on all these acres that we have in grapes. But there's a whole area you're saying where there's, or do you tap trees elsewhere?
Well, a combination. We do some trees here that we do on buckets, and then the more efficient process of using tubing. Is done down the street.
Right. Well, I'm really proud of you. I mean, I've driven by, let me tell you, for 10 years, and I knew you were here, and always wondered about it. I'm so happy to be here and meet you firsthand, to see this lovely young person who's so determined and trying to make it go, and it looks like you are making it go. So we're glad, Victor and I, to be able to put this out to the whole, public access stations, that it's the McLaughlin Vineyards in Sandy Hook. And this is Mrs. actually, Morgan McLaughlin, with the babies in background. And we're going to take a trip now over to where the hard work gets done.
Great.
So we can show people all about how the grapes get, as you said, they get
crushed and pressed.
And they have to sit in barrels and sit more. And then how all this gets into bottles, I'm not sure, but maybe somebody can give us a chance to see how some of that gets done. Even though it's not getting done today, they can maybe show us some of the equipment.
Yeah, let's take a walk.
Okay, good, Morgan. Morgan, now this is the workings to this wonderful place, right?
This is where all the grapes come after we've harvested. Right now we're in the fermentation room. So traditionally people think of wineries as having a lot of oak barrels, but this particular room is the fermentation room. So most of the wines, both white and red, get fermented in stainless steel. So we see some smaller stainless steel here, and then some of the big tanks are for more gallons, but fermentation and then storage.
But there's no conveyor belts here, so that means everything's hand carried? I mean, off those yellow trays that we saw out in the field?
Yeah, they're called lugs.
Lugs?
Properly named. They're lugged down to the winery, and then outside they're put through the crusher and then the press. And then after the grapes are pressed, the juice is pumped inside to a variable size tank.
So that isn't here, that's another space?
Well, the press is just right outside. Frank will show you that after.
Okay.
But this room is where the wine actually gets made, in one of these stainless steel barrels.
So what we're trying to say is it's the image of the old wooden barrel is not really how it's done as much as in these beautiful stainless steel.
Yeah, stainless steel is where a bulk of the wine is made. We use some small 55-gallon oak barrels for a little bit of barrel aging and a little bit of barrel fermentation with the Chardonnay. But about 75% of everything is made in a stainless steel tank.
So when you say made, does that mean it's going to sit in? Is this where they sit?
Yeah, it's where you start as grape juice and come out wine, so your fermentation process. And then your aging process is done here as well. And today, Frank, who is our assistant in the winery, he's moving wine around what's called racking, and that helps clarify the wine because we're going to be doing a lot of bottling in the next month.
Now, there's no temperature controls in this space. It's like in a big garage area. I mean,
right. A lot of the smaller wineries are like us, where each tank is not temperature controlled. So the temperature of each tank is the temperature of the room. Some of the big wineries, each tank will be on a separate temperature control system, and that's called a jacketed tank. But for us, it's whatever.
Does everything ferment at the same time, then, at the same temperature, or different grapes then combinations ferment differently because they're more active?
Right, and then also too, all the grapes don't get picked at one time. We pick over about a 6-week period of time, and depending upon when the fruit comes in, the temperature in which they get harvested will obviously be the temperature in which we start fermenting.
So you pick in August?
We do at the end of August, and then we pick a little bit at the end of September. So, but even then, you can get a cool day in August and a hot day in September. But usually, as your harvesting goes along, the temperatures get a little cooler.
How do they get the grapes? Or does it get piled in here?
Well, the grapes are all processed outside on the crush pad, and then inside their hoses bring in the juice.
Because I don't see any mess here anywhere. I don't see any crushed grape.
No, we just, actually, Dolly, we shoveled that out yesterday.
Oh, really?
Just
Did you do that? Not because Victor and I were coming, though.
No, just because we had been pressing over the weekends, and then Monday we get rid of all the crushed grapes and throw them away.
I says every week, every weekend.
Pretty much through the season. We're going to be picking this weekend as well. So we like to crush and press on a weekend, so people can get an opportunity to see what we do here. If we do it during the week, then a lot of people wouldn't get a chance to see it.
So people come to the winery to buy wines or just sort of tasting?
Yeah.
At the same time, they can see some of the operation?
Yeah, because a lot of times when you do a tour, there isn't any actual work going on in progress. But when you're at harvest, then there is something to see. So we try and time it so on the weekend people get a chance to see.
All right. So here's the place you can come and see it in action. Good. All right. Well, we came the wrong time then. Tell me about this piece of equipment. It looks like it's antique, but it isn't, is it? It's a working piece?
This is a filtration machine, and this is what helps clarify the wine and gets it ready right before we bottle. We do 5 levels of filtration, starting with coarse filtration through sterile, which is very much like the grading of sandpaper, where they have coarse through fine. It's similar. And everything gets sterile filtered right before it goes into the bottle. And that helps protect against bacteria and just makes the wine nice and clean.
And the bottling is done somewhere near here? Because I imagine everything must happen right in this vicinity.
Yeah, the bottling is in the other room. Frank can get you a shot of that. It's just a small stainless steel 4-bottle filler, and that's all done by hand.
4 bottles at a time, in other words.
Yeah.
And the labels?
Done by hand.
Okay, I got it. Just like New England Brewery when they first started.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a swell thing, and it's a wonderful family business with some outside help, and you could probably use all the help you could get.
Yeah, we could always use more help, but right now we've got some wonderful additions to the staff that are working out very well. So things are fine.
Well, you have a big future. I'm really happy that you decided to come back and do this in Fairfield. Is this Fairfield County still?
Yeah, we are the last town in Fairfield County, so.
And so it's a real feather in your cap that you were, I'm sure when you thought about it and you told me you were about 23, 24 years old, it must have been a pretty big challenge. You took it on.
Yes, and it's just nice being able to pass it on to your children, and hopefully they don't get too hurt outside.
So they'll live through this afternoon. We've taken their time. Thank you so much, Morgan. Thanks, everybody. This is the McLaughlin Vineyards in Sandy Hook. And find your way here, and I think you should come on the weekends from what you're saying.
Yeah, most people come on the weekend. Most people work during the week, so weekend's a nice time to come.
All right, we'll take you a little bit trip around the place, and we'll try to give you some more ideas of what's here. Thank you, Morgan. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, Dolly.